Food and feeding are complex issues, hugely sensory and hugely emotional. Every single sensory system is involved in the process of eating, and unidentified differences in sensory integration and processing can completely derail the development of learning to eat and feeding. And this has significant impact on an individual's development. Sensory overresponsivity, for example, can result in whole body reactions to food, which would mean that the brain body feels unsafe, attacked. Add another additional struggles, such as postural challenges, and the act of coordinating swallowing and breathing while sitting, impossible. It can also be difficult because of sensory integration and processing differences to sense when there's enough food in your mouth, how to move it around for chewing, how to produce the complex motor actions needed, how to use your hands to support independent eating, and more. And a lot of times, well-meaning approaches to feeding difficulties take a sort of no-nonsense approach that disregards the actual reasons feeding is hard in the first place, and this causes trauma. Failing to read someone's social communication around food by a caregiver or care provider can create this sort of urgency and drive for an individual to establish control and predictability. And what we do is we often call these behaviors. But people develop behaviors such as refusing to sit at the table, or needing to use a particular bowl and spoon, or being very particular about things, as a way of responding to not being listened to and not having any agency in their own activities of daily living. It's driven sometimes by anxiety, often by social needs, and it's self-advocacy that gone to the extreme because listening to those earlier social cues hasn't happened. And so what we need for these individuals are more feeding experts, care teams that read social cues, training and support for parents, meaningful supports for the individual that respect their choices and don't demand things unnecessarily. It needs to be a trauma-informed approach, a sensory-informed approach, a sensory health approach. And this is how we're going to support development of the necessary skills for feeding and eating, as well as always honoring the preferences of the client, always being client-led and seeking consent first. All of these steps will help support and empower individuals and caregivers, resulting in more encouraging experiences, successful long-term feeding and eating skill development, and impacting positive growth and health.